Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost, the one true God. Back with you with the next video in my series reading Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. Without further ado, returning to Oliver Twist as read by Lord Naren White. Giles, whispered the voice from the stairhead. I'm here, miss, replied Mr. Giles. Don't be frightened, miss. I ain't much injured. He didn't make a very desperate resistance, miss. I was too soon for him. Hush, replied the young lady. You frightened my aunt as much as the thieves did. Is the poor creature much hurt? Wounded desperate, miss, replied Giles, with indescribable complacency. He looks as if he was a-going, miss, bawled Brittles, in the same manner as before. Wouldn't you like to come and look at him, miss, in case he should? Hush, pray, there's a good man, rejoined the lady. Wait quietly only one instant, while I speak to aunt. With a footstep as soft and gentle as the voice, the speaker tripped away. She soon returned with the direction that the wounded person was to be carried carefully upstairs to Mr. Giles's room, and that Brittles was to saddle the pony and betake himself instantly to Chertsey, from which place he was to dispatch with all speed a constable and doctor. But won't you take one look at him first, miss? Asked Mr. Giles, with as much pride as if Oliver was some bird of rare plumage, that he had skillfully brought down. Not one little peep, miss. Not now, for the world, replied the young lady. Poor fellow. Oh, treat him kindly, Giles, for my sake. The old servant looked up at the speaker as she turned away, with a glance as proud and admiring as if she had been his own child. Then, bending over Oliver, he helped to carry him upstairs, with the care and solicitude of a woman. Chapter 29 has an introductory account on the inmates of the house to which Oliver resorted. In a handsome room, though its furniture had rather the air of old-fashionable comfort than of modern elegance, there sat two ladies at a well-spread basket table. Mr. Giles, dressed with scrupulous care in a full suit of black, was in attendance upon them. He had taken his station some way between the sideboard and the breakfast table, and with his body drawn up to its full height, his head thrown back and inclined the merest trifle, on one side his left leg advanced, and his right hand thrust into his waistcoat, while his left hung down his side, grasping a waiter, looked like one who labored under a very agreeable sense of his own merits and importance. Of the two ladies, one was well advanced in years, but the high-backed oaken chair in which she sat was not more upright than she. Dressed with the utmost nicety and precision in a quaint mixture of bygone costume, with some slight concessions to the prevailing taste, which rather seemed to point the old style pleasantly than to impair its effect, she sat in a stately manner, with her hands folded on the table before her. Her eyes, and age had dimmed but little of their brightness, were attentively upon her young companion. The younger lady was in the lovely bloom and springtime of womanhood, at that age when, if ever angels be for God's good purposes, enthroned in mortal forms, they may be, without impiety, supposed to abide in such as hers. She was not past 17, cast in so slight and exquisite a mould, so mild and gentle, so pure and beautiful, that earth seemed not to her element, nor its rough creatures her fit companions. The very intelligence that shone in her deep blue eye, and was stamped upon her noble head, seemed scarcely of her age or of the world, and yet the changing expression of sweetness and good humor, the thousand lights that played about the face, and left no shadow there, above all, the smile, the cheerful, happy smile, were made for home and fireside peace and happiness. She was busily engaged in the little offices of the table, chancing to raise her eyes as the elder lady was regarding her. She playfully put her back her hair, which was simply braided on her forehead, and threw into her beaming look such as an expression of affection and artless loveliness that blessed spirits might have smiled to look upon her. "And Brittles has gone upwards of an hour, has he?" asked the old lady after a pause. "An hour and 12 minutes, ma'am," replied Mr. Giles, referring to a silver watch which he drew forth by a black ribbon. "He is always slow," remarked the old lady. "Brittles always was a slow boy, ma'am," replied the attendant. And seeing by that Brittles had been a slow boy for upwards of 30 years, there appeared to be no great probability of his ever being a fast one. "He gets worse instead of better, I think," said the elderly lady. "It is very inexcusable in him if he stops to play with any other boys," said the young lady, smiling. Mr. Giles was apparently considering the propriety of indulging in a respectful smile himself, when a gig drove up to the garden gate, out of which there jumped a fat gentleman, who ran straight up to the door, and who, getting quickly into the house by some mysterious process, burst into the room, and nearly overturned Mr. Giles and the breakfast table together. "I never heard of such a thing!" exclaimed the fat gentleman. "My dear Mrs. Maylie, bless my soul, in the silence of the night, too. I never heard of such a thing." With these expressions of condolence, the fat gentleman shook hands with both ladies, and drawing up a chair, inquired how they found themselves. "You ought to be dead, positively dead with the fright," said the fat gentleman. "Why didn't you send? Bless me, my man should have come in a minute, and so would I, and my assistant would have been delighted. Or anybody, I'm sure, under such circumstances. Dear, dear, so unexpected, in the silence of the night, too." The doctor seemed especially troubled by the fact of the robbery having been unexpected, and attempted in the night time, as if it were the established custom of gentlemen, in the house breaking way to transact business at noon, and to make an appointment by post a day or two previous. "And you, Miss Rose?" said the doctor, turning to the young lady. "Oh, very much so, indeed," said Rose, interrupting him. "But there is a poor creature upstairs, whom aunt wishes you to see." "Ah, to be sure," replied the doctor. "So there is. That was your handiwork, Giles, I understand." Mr. Giles, who had been feverishly putting the tea cups to rights, blushed very red, and said that he had that honor. "Honor, eh?" said the doctor. "Well, I don't know. Perhaps it's as honorable to hit a thief in a back kitchen as to hit your man at 12 paces. Fancy that he fired in the air, and you fought a duel, Giles." Mr. Giles, who thought this light treatment of the matter was an unjust attempt at diminishing his glory, answered respectfully that it was not for the like of him to judge about that, but he rather thought it was no joke to the opposite party. "Gad, that's true," said the doctor. "Where is he? Show me the way. I'll look in again. As I come down, Mrs. Maylie. That's the little window that he got in at, eh? Well, I couldn't have believed it." Talking all the way, he followed Mr. Giles upstairs, and while he is going upstairs, the reader may be informed that Mr. Losberne, a surgeon in the neighborhood, known through a circuit of 10 miles round the doctor, had grown fat, more from good humor than from good living, and was as kind and hearty, and withal as eccentric an old bachelor, as will be found in 5 times that space by any explorer alive. The doctor was absent much longer than either he or the ladies had anticipated. A large flat box was fetched out of the gig, and a bedroom bell was rung very often, and the servants ran up and down stairs perpetually, from which tokens it was justly concluded, and that something important was going on above. At length he returned, and in reply to anxious inquiry after his patient, looked very mysterious and closed the door carefully. "This is a very extraordinary thing, Mrs. Maylie," said the doctor, standing with his back to the door, as if to keep it shut. "He is not in danger, I hope," said the old lady. "And will go ahead and stop there for this week. As usual, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Light be with you all. Take care, and thanks again.